All right, Wednesday, August 21st. I had these windows fully installed with polyurethane caulking underneath. It's a breeze to work with that stuff if you use mineral spirits as your cleanup. And all I did was apply it to the bus, then install the window. I scraped off the big goober of squeeze out with a little wooden spatula and wiped it down with mineral spirits and paper towels. And this is how perfectly it comes out. So today, the first thing I did when I got home from work, I put masking tape across the top edge and I applied a bead of the polyurethane sealant across the top, which you can see the straight edge there, but I'm guessing you're not going to be able to see anything of value to you, but it's in there. And I did all these windows as well. So these are ready for a squirt garden hose leak test. I already know this one leaks. Probably the same thing as the other side. The glass was not sealed properly to the metal frame. I don't know if that little buzz is an indicator of anything. It might just be the parts of the window. Anyway, so we're gonna give those a leak check. Yeah, I showed you guys that already. So on this side, I permanently installed this window and that window, and all these are waiting for the bead of caulk on the top. I've got that one scratch right there where I was having difficulty. Right there. And I would like to touch that up before I caulk it. So I'm just not... Yeah, see, this one doesn't have that buzz. I guess it does. So right there you can see that milky color. That's the caulking I added by forcing it in between the glass from the other side. And this window no longer leaks. So that's probably going to be the same case. This looks like they used hot glue to put the glass in, and they didn't put enough on there. So right now I'm chasing down another leak, and I think it was on my tail lights. I think the problem was mostly that these screws were loose. So this part of the tail lights are glued in with a urethane sealer, or probably adhesive, not sealer. Adhesives are a little stronger. And you can see right there. So the other day we had a pretty good rain, and right there you can see the tracks. Water was leaking out of there. So I'm trying to chase down what the issue is, and it looks like that the sealer is perfectly bonded, unless there's a gap in it or something. I mean, I can't really see what that is. So what best thing I could tell is at the back of these, what makes them seal is this edge going into what looks like a neoprene, like diving suit rubber kind of stuff. That was laid up in this area around these 4 pins, and it looked like some of it was a little bit displaced, that the seal was not in a good location for the back of that light to be pressing on it correctly. So I got the seals out. I'll show you what I mean here. They're right here. So you can see, like right here, just the very edge was getting squeezed over here. And over there, like just barely anything was getting squeezed. So that had a squeeze. So I think it's a little bit of a flaw in design here, that there's not a good pinch area. All right, so that one looked like it had a little bit of a gap. This is for the backup light. So another thing is, this is completely crushed where it was having a squeeze area, which is good, right? But I think it's lost its resiliency. So here's a spot right there, you see? There was not any squeeze right there. So I was toying around with the idea of putting these things backwards and gluing them into place, so then it would, you know, give it something to squeeze on a little bit, you know. So it's like, I don't really like that. What I really like to do is put new gaskets in there. So I'm going to do a little research and see if I can buy these for a reasonable price. If not, I'm going to go and see if I can find some of this neoprene. I mean, cork would probably work, but that's a little bit too firm, I think. I think the flex that this neoprene has is the perfect gasket for that, because that black plastic frame is not that rigid, right? And so you got to have something that's quite resilient to compensate. You don't want it to be too hard, right? Or you won't be able to get it to squeeze in all the areas, right? And I also could just caulk the thing in. I've got some, actually I think it's right here. I bought some water-based caulking. I think it might be even a DAP product right here. Yeah, it is DAP. Dynaflex Ultra Advanced Exterior Sealant. I was reading that wrong. So this is a water cleanup. It should be a latex. Resistant. It was pretty much my only choice when I went to Lowe's for black, and I plan on using this on the windows where I was showing you that the glass was leaking between the glass and the frame, and it had that like white milky colored caulking right there. There's this little plastic keeper piece right here is missing from there, and you won't see that. I just haven't put it back in, because I thought about maybe caulking it on this side between the glass and the metal. I'll show you on this side. The bummer is I already got the window tinting on, so I got to be real careful. Whatever I do, I don't damage my window tint. So what I chose for this window, clear caulking from Poly Seam Seal, which back in the day when I was a carpenter, that was the ultimate best caulk you could buy for ease of use, and did a great job. And it's amazing, this tube has got to be like 10 years old, and it was partially used. I cut the tip off and I was able to get it to squeeze. The first like inch or so of it, it was coming out like kind of grainy looking, but right, it looks white because it's still not fully cured. This stuff takes a really long time to fully cure, and when it does turn clear. I used this on my daughter's bedroom after we put in her wallpaper, and I caulked down all the edges with that clear stuff, and it stayed clear. Once it got clear, it stayed clear. So anyway, I used that. Now I decided black would be a better choice, because this stuff does have a tiny bit of a milky color to it, as you can see on that window. That's been there for a couple of weeks and it's been baked in the sun, so that's as dry as that's going to get. And And I remember from my daughter's room, it stayed tacky for a long time. So anyway, Poly Seam Seal is the brand. I recommend it highly. It's good water-based caulk if you're doing something where a water-based latex type of caulk is the product you want to use. So I'm at a crossroads. If I use this caulk, I know it won't stick as strong, if that's the right term, as my urethane caulking that I'm using. But at the same time, if anything kind of flexes and the caulk breaks its seal, that light will leak again, and I won't know it's leaking, and it'll leak into my wall. So I think the right thing to do is to get some more of that neoprene seal. I got a bunch of gasket material up there, but I know I don't have anything that'll work. So let me do some web surfing and see if I can find some of that neoprene seal, and then we'll double check the leak on those rear lights. And once that's satisfied and I take care of any leaks that show up on these windows, I'm going to be completely waterproof except for this door. That's going to be a great day. Alright, so just went and got my phone. So I thought I would double check what's going on here. So this is the one of the lights installed without the gasket. And so we're touching up here, and you see this right here? That's why I think she's leaking. This over time has yielded to the force of that neoprene gasket, ever so light force, or it's just basically distorted. So it looks like if I buy a piece of neoprene to put in there, I'm gonna have to get 1/4 inch thick. I did find that they have it, or I could just glue this thing in. Oh gosh. So I could caulk it from this side, and I'd get a good seal. Except for the screws, anyway. It won't leak if I do that. And then I can always cut the caulking. Yeah, I need to think this through. Alright, so here's the forward side of my left-hand tail lights. When I take a look at this, and you can see it might be that this plastic yielded over time from the force that neoprene gasket's pushing, because this is bowed also, and I could pull this up, and I actually heard it crack loose when I pulled, because these gaskets have lost their resiliency. So gosh, and yeah, you can see some leak, traces of leak right there. See those lines? This one's been leaking too. Looks like some water stains on that black area, and then the traces coming down right here. So these are leaking as well. And now this looks like it's leaking from here. Not here. This is the light, that's the plastic frame. This looks like it's leaking between the frame and the body. All that white stuff right there. Which would tell me that I got a leak around that. So now that would be a rather easy caulk line to make. Just fill all that in. I could put some masking tape around this edge, put caulk around the outer perimeter. I'm gonna do that, but I still have to figure out what I'm gonna do with these tail lights, because I don't want to permanently glue them in, if one of them goes bad, I need to be able to get it out without breaking that plastic bezel. That thing. Here's the left one. So you can, maybe you can see that, I don't know. Just barely caught the gasket right there. All that area looks pretty good. Alright, so we look at this. You see we got it looks like a crack right there, doesn't it? I can't feel it. I think it might be a scratch from when I was doing the tape or something. But here you can see the gasket squeezed there, but it missed entirely right there. So nothing was even pressing in this area. And this side here, backup light looks pretty good. Gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't want to leave this the way it is. I was just thinking, if I got a couple of pieces of 3/8 or 1/2 inch plexiglass, I could cut it to match this piece, glue it in so it would basically work like this, and that would be thick enough to take a thread, and just leave a little hole in the middle so there'd be more body to the plexiglass, and I'd be done. That would be one solution, and that would work perfectly fine. The back of these lights are flat, so like I was saying, I could just cut a small hole here, then I'd have this whole surface area for a gasket to do its job, instead of just this rinky-dink little thing. I'm trying to not make a mountain out of a molehill here, and I'm really anxious to get working on the inside of the bus, but I gotta make sure she's watertight. So I'm gonna think about this some more. Alright, so I verified that that's a crack. I just put my lips over it and I could suck air through that crack. And so, I mean, that might not be part of the ceiling area, but I don't know where this thing is leaking, because really the ceiling area is the back, where the back is bonded to this. Well, I say that, but look right there. I wonder how that works with that big... I wonder how that is getting a seal. I don't know what's going on here. I think, as much as I hate to do it, I think the only real fix for this is to break these up and replace them with a piece of 1/2 inch thick, or maybe 3/8 of an inch thick black plexiglass, and just remake them pretty much matching what I got here. Glue them in with polyurethane caulk around the edge and put the lights in. That means more time working on that and less time working on the inside. All right, so I've learned a little bit. I'm gonna give this a shot and try to seal this thing up before I get too extreme. So what I realized, I was looking right at this area right here, there's no caulk on this piece in this area. So I'm not sure what's going on behind this. I have an idea what's going on behind this, that it's just freaking hollow. But I was cleaning this out to prep it to seal that opening, and I had a blast of water came out of that little spot right there. That little corner there. So I've cleaned this up as good as I can with some brake clean. And I'm going to seal this stuff up with my polyurethane sealant that I got from Lowe's. And then I'm going to give this thing, yeah, that stuff. So then I'm going to reinstall these headlights and leak test this thing and see if I have any leakage around it. And if I can get this thing to not leak, I'm just going to leave it. So what I was thinking of doing is putting these guys in, all right, like that, and then come back here and just caulk this area, so then it won't be so much of gluing in the light. I could always come back on here and cut this with a razor knife, and I should be able to pop the light back out again. So then that satisfies my concern about not being able to remove these things. And you know, the more I'm thinking about it, whatever wall I make here, it's just gonna have to be a removable panel to service the back of this thing. My idea of using a piece of 1/2-inch plexiglass to go in here at face value seemed to be like a great idea, but what the issue is we've only got about a 1/16 of an inch of material between the back of the light. The light rests on this pretty much, and the metal. If I were to put a piece of 1/2-inch plexiglass in there, that's going to push my lights out a 1/2 inch less this, so that's almost 1/8, I guess. So it'd be about 3/8. The lights are going to poke out about 3/8. I won't have this little piece of bezel here, which covers the side of the light. It makes them look nice and finished. They would be just, you know, looking like that, poking out the back. And that's kind of an unfinished look. So I'm going to give this a shot of sealing them up. I'm not going to put any caulk around here yet, although I think that will be the ultimate seal. I don't know what to do about this crack except put a big spooge of caulk over the top of it, which I don't like the idea of that. It's starting to rain. So that's what we're going to give that a shot. I want to see what's leaking, because I'm quite certain that this plastic bezel is not sealed to the bus because of this right here and this little area over here that leaked. And I have a feeling that was the majority of the leak that left these streaks that I could see here, and maybe even so on the other side. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to use the polyurethane sealant on these little gaps, okay, which, by the way, I took my wood chisel. I use a wood chisel. Where'd that thing go? Very, very well sharpened wood chisel. Works great for this type of work. And I removed the excess bead of the polyurethane seal from here. That's why this looks flat right now. Okay, and I'm going to give this thing a go around all the way around its perimeter, wherever I think it needs it anyway. It's so hard to see. The light is blinding me here. My glasses are old and scratched, so they're all just, you know, making this really tough. But yeah, I'm going to give this a seal with the polyurethane around the perimeter. And when I seal the lights in, I'm going to use the water-based latex caulk, because I know that'll give me a positive seal. It won't be really strong. It'll be something that I could remove easily. So we're going to give that a try and see how that goes. And if I'm watertight, I really don't know what to do with this thing. These things are so flexible here. there's never going to be a way to get a good seal on those unless I really seal them up with something like this. And then they're going to be permanently glued in there. And if I ever have a tail light or one of these lights fails, then I'm going to have a big project of rebuilding this whole thing in some kind of way. So tomorrow I'm going to call up the Thomas Bus Parts Distributor and see if I can buy these things. Maybe I should just wait for that. I'm anxious to do something today. I guess I'll just wait till tomorrow and see if I can buy these things and they're reasonably priced. And if they are, then I'll just cut them out and replace them. And that way I can ensure that when they're installed, they're caulked in correctly and completely, and that'll take care of it. I guess. I don't know. I just can't make up my mind what to do with this thing, but I'm going to wait. Usually when I don't know what's going on with something, if I wait a day or a couple of days, then I'll have an epiphany. There's that word again. I'll have an epiphany on what to do to fix it. I mean, there's a few things bouncing around in my head. I could use the plexiglass trick and replace this with something flat. It'll look a little unfinished when I'm done with it, but it'll be sealed, that's for sure. I can go with 1/4 inch plexiglass. I can go with 1/4 inch ABS plastic, black ABS plastic. I can go with a piece of 1/8 inch thick aluminum. Yep, I'll just have to get used to, any of those, I'll have to get used to looking at these without the trim around their perimeter, which I think I can anyway. It'll look something like that when the light is sticking out from the surface. Okay. All right, so we switch to the right side just to see what's going on. We got the same thing. There's an opening here between the plastic and the metal. All right. And I blow air in that crack. And I'm getting water coming out of here. So my leak is between the plastic and here, just like on the right side.